When we'll just chat while we're waiting, Stephen, but we can bring a lot of these things up. We'll have a good session where we can let everyone come up and I can comment on all of this. But yes, look, that's exactly what I'm trying to do. It feels like we need one narrative which addresses all of our experience and which can stop this division between inadequate responses. And both of those responses, I think you got at the dinner party, I get all the time, and they're inadequate in my view. So I'm living it at the moment. I'm writing a new book, so I'm completely like every day, all day, just completely. And I think it's a beautiful vision, and I think it can make a real difference. However, the truth is, my friend, if you take a paralogical approach, you're going both and, you can end up with no friends. I don't mean that literally, I hope. But what I mean by that is that one side thinks you're saying, they're going science. You're going yes and this, and they're going no, and the other. So you find that it's very easy because you don't have a camp when you're setting something new up. There's no established support. And so I find that a lot, and also a lot of misunderstanding, because a lot of people assume if you're not what they are, you must be the opposite. And I mean, I've had it for 20 years. It started with the Gnosticism, when I wrote a book on Gnosticism saying that Jesus didn't exist, and I wasn't an atheist, but actually took a Gnostic approach and said it's deeper than you think. People, found that really difficult. They were really happy with the atheists saying it because they knew who they were. They were there. They're anti-Christian, great. They're very happy with the old Christians going, no, this is the truth. But to come in the middle and go, actually, I think that tradition is wrong, but it's deeper than you think. It was very hard. You kind of, again, you didn't have a natural camp. I'm going to unmute you, Stephen, so you can talk. Hang on a second. Oh, can I do that? I don't think I can do that. I think you've got to do it, Jessica, while we're gathering here.
All right, I'm unmuted. Okay, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, thank you. That does help me a lot, because I think your things on death is incredible. The fact that we are the means by which this universal, I call it a universal mysterious life force, and I think that is okay, because it doesn't exclude God, but it doesn't label it as God. But I think the thing on death is amazing, that actually this universal life force now needs us. It needs our psyche to unfold itself, to become itself. So therefore, as you were saying, death now isn't part of biology. We'll die on a biological level, but our thoughts and our psyche are now so important, as it's a two-way process. And that is so enlightening. I suddenly found I'm relieved about that. I'm not so frightened of death, because death isn't this end, and it isn't eternal judgment. We are essential for this universal life force, this mysterious presence, to unravel itself. And that is enlightening. And I think your thing on time, again, is incredible, that it's, but I think it's both and time. I think there isn't such a thing as time, and we are time. Everything is time. I think it's a both and on that. I can go with the fact that there is now, just now happening, and that we are made of time. So both those, I think, are incredible insights on time and on death.
Thank you so much. I love them too. And it's been so lovely to have your enthusiasm take us off while we're all gathering, this beautiful enthusiasm. So with the time thing, Stephen, I completely agree with you. And this is something we can do while we're gathering all the people that are coming in, is when I look at time, it feels like, look, there is always this deep paradoxical polarity to everything. And certainly in this moment, one of them is that there is this flow of time, which is experience. And then there's this presence, which is experiencing it, which has no qualities other than being, and therefore doesn't change and is timeless. So this moment, what makes the moment is that it is timeless and time. It is both of those, and not as some abstract philosophy where it's like, it's timeless and time. No, have a look. It is. It already is all those polarities. It's just like, have a look. It's already all individual and all one. Look, it's all one experience, and it's all separated off into individual bits. It's both of it's right there in front of us.
But Tim, why do I resonate with this so much? I get so excited by it, and then when I convey it to other people, it goes flat, and I think, God, I'm crazy. I'm crazy. I so get this, but no one else I know does.
Well, I think there's two things with that. One is that when you're communicating with people who can hear what you have to say, it's an awful lot easier, which is one of the reasons we have these ICU meetups, because we absolutely need to be around kindred spirits. We must be. And then the other thing is, like anything, okay. And then there's just partly, Stephen, it's to do with the positivity. And I noticed this myself. It's like I'm wrestling with some new ideas about consciousness, which are really important to me right now. And when it's just me and I'm talking to myself, which is what I do mostly, I can get pretty good at it. Yes. But then as soon as I have to come and convey it to somebody else, it comes out of my mouth like a big brick. It's like, blah, 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 blah. And it feels like, oh, this isn't ready yet, is it? But what I know is that if I do it enough to myself and then I start doing it to other people. So, for example, you say, I really love your stuff on time. When I started sharing that stuff on time and the basics, the idea of the soul stream and the time stream, it took me, some of you, Barnaby, I know, you saw your face. You were there, I think, at the first times I was sharing it. And it took me forever to get across those ideas. And I was struggling. Now I can do it in a few minutes. So what happens is that our understanding is also positivity. Positivity is neither negative or positive. In fact, mainly positive. And so we lay down our understanding is also a kind of a habit we've laid down. And so the more you do it, and that's why the longer you go through it, the more it's like it becomes something which you can, excuse me a second, I've left something on which I need to turn off so we're not disturbed. You can find a facility to do it. So that's why we need very much we need to support each other. So we've got kindred spirits, and then we need to have the courage to keep working at it. And then you find the right people you can communicate with, and then it's a wonderful thing. With which I can say, because this is a great opportunity, we're still being gathering people. Hello, lots of beautiful faces, marvelous. Let's kick off, and I will say this now. I wasn't going to say it till later because of what Stephen has so beautifully shared. Tonight we're going to do, the reason it's a 3-hour session is it feels like, look, let's come together and see how it is. So please go out and either send Jessica a message or ideally put something on the Facebook page so I can learn from what we do this evening, because we're looking to find, what's worth. We have our hour-and-a-half meetings. Should we do more longer ones? Should we, feedback, so we can find the best way to do this. But the idea between this one was, let's get together and let's do some experiential work, but then let's also have some time for some deep conversation, which is Stephen has just taken us off on straight away. In response to the stuff that Stephen was saying, this is just a heads up. Hopefully this week with Jessica, I'm going to be making a short video which will go out to you about another ICU thing I'm going to start, which will be a specifically philosophy group. And I'm not going to go into the details of it now because it'll be in the video, but look out for it, because what I want to do is I want to put together a smallish group of people that really have a particular interest in grasping the philosophy and hothousing the philosophy and in helping me develop it. And I think that wants to be an individual thing within the ICU. So when that comes out, if that's something which you go, yeah, I'd love to be involved in that. You don't need to be a philosopher. You just need to be a curious person who has a definite interest in being that type of conversation. Then look out for that, because that'll be a great place where we can really help each other get very clear on the ideas and how to work with them ourselves and how to share them also, to be ambassadors for it. So that's coming. Little heads up. We are recording. Great. The other thing I need to tell you just organisationally is about a quarter of an hour ago before we started, my internet went down completely. So if that happens again, I will get it back on. It doesn't normally happen, but if it does happen, Jessica will be here. You can facilitate the conversation and I will come back as quickly as I can. I'm hoping it's not going to happen.
I will do my best to entertain you all.
And Jessica is not well tonight, and she's here doing all the technical stuff in the background. So, yay.
But I'd just like to say how nice it is that I'm doing my job from my sick bed. This is just such a nice way to work, so I don't mind.
All right, let's see everyone's face there. So I'm thinking let's start with a meditation and then we'll do it. Let's start with exploring our individuality together, just to start off, just to remember why we gather, that all the ideas and the practices are all about facilitating this next step in our evolution from individuals to individuals conscious of unity. So just relax. Be comfortable. And let's start with the body. Bring your attention into your breath. That beautiful feeling of breathing. Breathing in the one air. And I invite you to be conscious of something you know, that your body, although individual, is completely embedded in a vast ecology without which you could not possibly exist. An ecology of other beings, other human beings, other life forms, the food you eat, the air you breathe. And reach out from your individuality and commune with the world around you. Your body is literally made in ancient stars. That fact alone points to how interconnected you are with everything. And be conscious of yourself as an individual aspect of not just all of nature, but of the whole universe. It sounds so grand, but it's the smallest of shifts in your understanding and my understanding. Try out being the universe arising as you. And see how it feels. The universe breathing itself, listening to itself, feeling itself. And then sink your attention into the psyche, into the imaginal realm, the soul, place of images, place of meaning, story. And you'll find yourself no longer in the physical world of space, but in the non-local domain of soul. And in that domain of soul, be conscious of how connected you are to all souls. That once again you are an individual part of a vast ecology of soul. You are connected to all the souls that your life has ever touched. You are particularly connected to all those you love. And right now, you are particularly connected to everyone else who's exploring individuality with you right now, all of us. So in your imagination, in the soul, feel out that connection, that communion of soul in which we are coming together right now. Enter into that communion. And then sinking your attention right back into the depths of being. That presence which is witnessing this moment. Something which has no form, which is experiencing this flow of forms. Something timeless, experiencing time. Here's a lovely way to connect with that depth of being. Be conscious that in the world of the body, everything that is arising within emptiness. We call that emptiness space, and it has no form. And everything exists within it. It has no form, but it exists. It is being. Put your attention on the emptiness, which is everywhere and nowhere. Be the emptiness within which everything is arising. In the domain of the psyche also, our experiences are arising within an emptiness. We sometimes call it consciousness. Every idea and image, all of the experiences of the soul arising in a different sort of emptiness. Different because it's on the level of soul. Be the emptiness within which sensation and imagination are arising. Something formless, because it has no qualities except being. Everything we experience has different qualities, but everything shares one quality. Everything is. Everything shares being. Be that field of being, arising as everything, and individuated as you, this human being. And then take your attention right the way down through all of your different levels of experience into the physicality of the body, to the place where your body is. Embracing all of that, individual and universal. The universal arising as the individual. The unividual, both. And then when you're ready, you can open your eyes and give your body a little movement, a little wiggle. And there we are. I think what I would like to do with us to start us off, and this will take a little bit of time, and I normally do this to end with, but it feels important that we've got time to help us this coming together. So many of you who have done things with me in the past, especially those who've been at retreats, know that a lot of what I do to allow us to come into this deep communion is simply to get us to meditate on each other and to connect. Because in that connecting of being one and two at the same time, that's where this unividuality arises and this enormous love which comes with it when we really see it. And one of the things which I'm experimenting with very much this year is how much can we do on the internet? Because we're literally all over the world right now. And I think we can do a fair bit. Paul, are you waving to me? Oh, you are. Let's unmute you. Can I unmute you, or only I think you have to do it? Can you?
Yeah, I was just going to ask you if you could turn your volume up a tiny bit.
Certainly. Has that helped?
Yes, that's excellent.
Great. Okay. Thank
I
you.
have some questions for you when it's time.
Yes, definitely. We're definitely going to do questions. We've got, I thought we'd do some experiential stuff and then we get into questions so that we're ready for questions. What I'd like to do, Jessica, please, is I'd like to us to come together and to, I'd like to connect. Now, I think most of you have done this with me. Some of you may not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Jessica to bring up your face on the screen. There's a fair few of us, so it won't be for very long. And I want you to unmute each person.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like that person to connect first and then say hello, who you are, and whereabouts in the world you are. And then we'll just move on. And the rest of us, I want you, although it'll be a bit, it's internet, so it'll be a bit fragmented and buttons and all of that, but don't let that put you off. Just connect through. It doesn't matter you're not looking in someone's eyes because they may not be, I have to do that if I want to look at my camera because my camera is all up there. But it doesn't matter. It's just an image. But what you're connecting with through the image is another soul just like you. And at the depths, you're connecting with the presence of this deep being, which is in everything. So it's a very powerful meditation. Let's just give it some precious focus, and then we'll use that to move from for the rest of the session. Does that make sense? If anyone's not clear about that, can you just wave your hand now? Great. Okay, well, let's start with me, because that's nice and easy. And you've got the idea that I want, Jessica?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you we'll bring up each person. We'll start with me, and then we'll see each other. Right, here we go. I'm Tim, and I'm in Glastonbury in England.
Okay. Rob.
I'm Rob. I'm in Canberra, Australia.
Ali.
You won't need to say people's names, Jessica, because they will see themselves.
That's true.
I'm Ali. I'm in Aachen, Germany.
Oh, sorry. I think there's some. Okay.
I'm Barn. I'm in Bridgewater, Somerset, in the UK.
I'm Brendan, and I'm in Teignmouth in the southwest of the UK.
I'm Carol. I'm in Farnham, Surrey, in the UK.
I'm Caroline, and I'm in Birmingham in the UK, and I'm on my tablet today because my laptop was reluctant to boot up.
Hi, I'm Chris from Birmingham in the UK. Hello.
Hi, I'm Dan. I'm from Sydney, Australia.
Hi, I'm David Gardiner, and I'm on the island of Kauai in the Hawaiian chain.
Okay. It should be, I was going to go to Debbie next. Debbie, I can't seem to control you from here. So if you are unable to unmute yourself, it's on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen.
If you
Can you hear me?
Yes. Well, we can't see you. So again, I'm not sure if you can control your video, which should be next to that.
We're going to get terrible feedback. I think we'll if we have any problems with anything, we'll just move straight on,
Yeah,
Jessica.
okay. No
and come
problem.
back. Just unmute. You need to unmute yourself. That's it,
Yeah.
Dita. There we go. Hi.
Hi, I'm Dita. I'm from Holland.
Hi, I'm Doug. I'm from the state of Indiana in the United States.
Hello, everyone. I am Eva. I am in the north of Sweden, in Umeå.
Hello, I'm Greg, and I'm in Kansas City in the middle of the United States.
Ilsa, oh, there we go. Okay.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ilsa, and I'm in Boulder, Colorado, USA.
My name is John, and my body is in the great state of Texas, San Antonio.
Hi, I'm Judith, USA, Southern California.
Hi, I'm Ken. I'm in Calgary, Alberta, Canada.
Hi, I'm Leonard, and I'm in the Black Forest in Germany.
Hi, I'm Leticia. I am in Buenos Aires, Argentina.
Hello, I'm Loki, and I'm talking to you from Groningen, the Netherlands.
I'm Marianne. I'm in the west of Norway, Morley.
Hi, I'm Lori. I'm in Denver, Colorado in the US.
Hello, I'm Melanie, and I'm in Carshalton, South London, UK.
Hello, I'm Oleg, and I'm in Oslo, Norway.
I'm Henry. I'm in Kennebunk, Maine in the USA.
Rob, have I already done you?
Yes.
Yes, I thought so.
Yeah, there was. Yeah, we ran the second time.
Okay.
Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sharon, and I'm in Cape Elizabeth, Maine, in the U.S.
Hi, I'm Stephen, and I'm in.
We've lost sound with you, Stephen. What's going on there?
It's fine. We got the best bit.
We did.
Hello, I'm Stephen, and I'm in Ipswich in the UK.
Hi, all you wonderful people. I'm Susanna, and I'm in Oxford, England.
Hi everyone, I'm Jessica, and for those of you that haven't met me before, I'm Tim's personal assistant and coordinate the ICU, and I'm in Glastonbury.
Well done,
Seem
Jessica.
like it. Thank you.
Oh, and we've got Debbie now. Let's end with Debbie.
Fantastic. Okay.
Hello.
Oh.
I've had computer trouble, so.
So, darling, I'm going to mute you. For those of you that don't know, or can you do that? Debbie is my wife, and she's in the house just nearby me. Hello, isn't that lovely? Goodness gracious, how cool is that to see everyone's face? Wonderful, 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 wonderful. So here we are. We had the chance to do that because what we're doing here is about bringing together those that recognize this particular impulse which is arising. And what is just amazing is look how different we are. I mean, aren't we really different? And what I love about that is the things that have brought together human beings in the past have usually been about geography, or they've been about race, geography, ideology, But this is something else now. This is something which people, there's a resonance in which people feel, hang on, this is where I can be part of something which is happening. This is where I can play a role, or I can get the sustenance I need. So I think it's so beautiful to see that we are literally right the way around this earth tonight. And let's start off with that. And I think what we'll do now is let's go. One of the things I did at the last retreat, and I'm going to do it at the next one in New Year the same, is I used to come in and give what were, talks or lectures about various ideas which seem important. More and more I'm thinking, look, if you want those ideas, they're out there on the internet. You can just pick them up. I've just done an audio book of Soul Story. You can go and get that. You can read the books. So that's all there. What the most useful thing we can do with our time is to interact, and particularly I can be here for you. So what I would like to do is open up some discussion now, and then we'll take a little break, and then we'll come back and do some more. So we can go wherever we want. I know Henry, we're going to start with Henry, because Henry already got his straight in there and said, I've got some things. Good for him, as did Stephen. And then you can, if there's anything you want, different directions, or if you want to explore the direction we're going in, we can do that. Now, how? Well, there is the two things you can do. One is you can wave, and Jessica or I will see you going, please, I'd like to say something, and then we'll note that. But also in the chat box. If you see at the bottom of your screen, it says chat. And if you press that button chat, the chat box will open up on the side. And if you write anything in there, we will get to see it. So that's it. So if you've got a question, you can either write the question or just go, I'd like to say something, and we'll see you. And somehow between us, we'll make that work. Does that all work for you, Jessica? Yeah, good. Okay, Henry, let's start with you, my friend.
So there was something posted earlier on the web, and it brought me up to a question of the separation of the difference between soul and ego. And
right.
So I was curious about that. And the other question I have has to do with our universality, and that we're born back into this life with little memory of the achievements that we've achieved as far as knowing, and seem to have to start all over again. And that's somewhat confusing to me.
Yeah, great questions. Okay, let's start with the first one. So this is a really important one for me. Now, people use words in different ways, and people should be able to use words however they want to use them, as long as we're very clear. However, I think that there is an awful lot of confusion created by the way that the word soul and ego are being used a lot these days. And what the general thing I come across a lot is this idea that there's a lesser you, which now gets called the ego. And that's a bad thing. And its job is to make you just think about yourself, and it will try and stop you waking up. And it's going to stop you waking up because when you wake up, the ego will die. And then there's a deeper you, which sometimes gets called the soul, and that's all good. And you're already all good. And if you could just remember that you're already all good, everything would be great. But unfortunately, you have this other damn thing which is stopping you, and that's the ego. So you're caught in this battle. Now, as every human being can look inside themselves and find fault, and I hope every human being can look inside themselves and find goodness, we are very prone to picking up ideas like there's a battle in us. But I think it's profoundly unhelpful, and it's come from a mishmash of ideas, from some Christian ideas about the nature of soul, that you were created a soul and that you fell into the earth. That idea, alongside ideas from India about the nature of the mind and what gets called the ego. But the ego, the phrase itself, It just means the I. And if you go into certain areas of psychology, of course, it's a very good thing and it's fine. So, all right, that's the confusion. Here's the way that I make sense of it in a way that I think is really helpful, and hopefully it will be to you, because it's experiential and it's, well, let's just do it. Look, you are experiencing two types of experience. You're experiencing the body and sensation, and you're experiencing what in science today is called the psyche, which is imagination or images. It's an imaginal realm. It's where you're hearing the meaning of these words. The word psyche is the ancient Greek word for soul. Soul is from the Germanic root. Mind is from another root, but they all refer primarily to what we now call the psyche. So what is the soul? For me, Henry, the soul is this other domain that you're experiencing, all of that. That's also, I think, how it was seen by, say, the great Carl Jung and people like that, who wrote about the soul and saw themselves as investigating the nature of the soul. And the soul is a vast area of which you are conscious of some bits and most of it you're not. Just like the world is huge and you're just conscious of the bit you can see and the rest you're not. So the soul for me is not some isolated aspect. It is everything that you are on that level. And I think that really helps get experientially what we're talking about, because you get lots of things like, do you believe in a soul? And is there this little thing which survives death? I think it's complete misunderstanding. The thing which survives death is the thing you are right now. It's the imagination. It's the thing which lives on in which dreams. It's the whole of this realm. That's the deeper aspect of what you are. When the ancient teaching says you're a body and a soul, they were pointing out the obvious. Look, you're a body and a soul. You can't miss it. We all are. And the body is a thing in a place, and the soul isn't a thing and it's not in a place. All of it is a flow of experience, actually, or time. The body is on the biological level, and the soul is on the immaterial level of the imaginal realm, which has evolved from it. It's the most emergent level of reality. Now, within the soul, this flow of imagination, you have a story. And the story gets a terrible name too. I constantly hear people saying, leave behind your story. Oh, what a disaster that would be. You wouldn't know who you are. You wouldn't know anything. You are a story. On the level of soul, you're the story of you, which is why when we just went round, we had a tiny bit of everyone's story. Oh, I'm here, I'm this person, and I live here. That's a little tiny fragment of this immense story. And if we had the time, you'd want to hear everyone's story, because every single person's story in this meeting would blow you away with the level of intensity and suffering and wisdom and joy and experience and elation. And the story, the universe has evolved from hydrogen, like Stephen was saying, into a story. And right now it's the story of you. And the story of you is meeting the story of Tim. And in our story, we're meeting up doing this. The story is where all the meaning is. Now, we don't want to get stuck in the story. You get stuck in an old pattern, you just repeat the old story. Your stories, you need a better story. You need to move it on. That's not a good thing. But the story itself is beautiful. There's a lovely old Hasidic Jewish wisdom saying, which says, God created people because he likes stories. And there's something deep about that. There really is. So that's the story. And then who are you in the story? There's an idea of yourself. And that's the ego. That's the me idea. And the ego, the individual self as this hero of this story is, again, it's a wonderful thing. And if you haven't got one and it's not healthy, you suffer. You don't become enlightened. You fall to bits. Which is why right now we're dealing with an awful lot of mental illness where people haven't got healthy egos. And they're not enlightened. They're not free. Actually, they're in trouble. And what we need to do is get the ego, the story, the individual, healthy and strong enough that that soul can then transcend the individual and find the universal, which is the waking up to oneness. When you realize, oh, I'm not just Tim, I'm everything, appearing as Tim. And that happens through the individual, not by getting rid of the individual, which is why I've called this thing unividuality. It's an individual conscious of unity. Now, the old ideas which get so confusing come from older traditions. An awful lot from India right now for us, but also they're not just India, it's also in the Christian tradition elsewhere. And it's based on the idea of a fall, which is we've come from some higher dimension and we've fallen into this terrible place. And this terrible place is samsara, illusion. It's maya, it's illusion. It's the devil's playground. And we're trapped. We're trapped in the body. Plato says the body is a tomb. And our job is to free ourselves from this tomb. Now, that's a very negative view. Can I mute you, Jessica?
Oh, sorry, yes.
Thank you. This is a very negative view of what life is. And it comes with a great deal of spiritual negativity. And nearly everything from the ancient traditions has it to some degree. And it comes through to us as the ego. And the idea that you're already perfect if you could just but remember. I think both are completely wrong. Here's the bad news. I don't think you're already perfect. I don't think I'm already perfect. I don't think any of us are already perfect. I don't even know what that would mean. I don't think we just need to remember something we've lost. I don't think we need to go back home and get away from this awful place. I think we're part of an exquisite process of evolution in which more and more emergent potentials are being realized all the time, so that we are growing towards that thing. We are a soul reaching to greater levels of realization, all of us. And it's not just about remembering something we've forgotten. It's about finding out something for the first time. It's about going deeper into something which wants to be created, something which reaches towards greater goodness. And the ego isn't in the way. We haven't fallen down and we're stuck in this thing. We're rising up. We haven't fallen from God. The universe is flowering into God. This great goodness is coming through this process. So just as, if I want my soul to be at its best, for most of us, certainly I know for me, Jessica, you're having this right now, I suspect, it's hard for the soul to function at its best when the body is in trouble. It's really hard. And you know that when you're ill, and it's why it's so horrible for people who are suffering.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But when the body's well, then the soul can function much easier. The same thing, when the ego is well, then it can take off into the deep awake state, and it can know this oneness, and there's a unividuality to it, which is why this dichotomy, the good bit, the bad bit of you fighting, is so completely disastrous, because it sets up this war inside yourself for no reason whatsoever. Whereas actually what we need to do is really accept what we are and help it grow and change. So that's why I think that really matters, Henry. You've got another question, which is about memory and reincarnation, but let's just take a moment with this one for a second, and make sure I come back to that. There's a few comments here. I just want to pick them up. What place of consciousness then? Because it is my sensation that when I connect deeply in the soul, I can experience a deep field of silence that's very alive. Yes. Beautiful. Where are you? There you are. Laetitia. So look, the nature of identity is that, you know, there's the level of the body, there's the level of the soul, and then there's this other deeper thing. Now, the traditional name for it is spirit, which means essence. Essence from esse, the Latin, to be. It's being. It's being. It's something which simply is. Now, when I started the meditation, I took us to that at the beginning, which is like, look, here's the body, and the body is part of the universe, but it's an individuated aspect. Here's the soul. The soul is also part of the universe on that level. It's an individuated aspect. And then there's this vast field of something which is but has no form. It's just being, from which everything is arising. It's the ground of everything. Now, in the Eastern traditions, that is often called consciousness. And the reason it's called consciousness is that right now, in this moment, if you pay attention to it, it's your being. So it's your so it's subjectively, your being is conscious of this. One of the aspects of the book I'm writing right now is to say, but it's not actually consciousness. It's rather the other way around. When we are conscious of being, that consciousness rises up through the subject and object of being an individual in relationship with the whole. And at a certain point, you become conscious of being, and for most animals and human beings, the first level is you get conscious of being the body, because that's where you're sensing the world from. And then if you look deeper, you become conscious of being the ego, the hero of the story, and you identify with that. And then if you keep going, you go, oh, hang on, I'm the witness of everything. I'm this presence that's conscious. And that's your being. And if you put attention on it, then, as you said, it's like a endless silence within which the sound is arising. It's it's blissful to be conscious of those depths. It's absolutely extraordinary because that's the deep individuality. That's the place where it's all one. I think I understand. I myself have usually called it consciousness, but I actually think it's confusing, because consciousness has actually evolved. Consciousness is a level of subjectivity that has evolved through the process. You can see it happening. You know, there's plants, and then animals, or then us, and the other higher animals. You can see that we're conscious. But the thing which is the ground of all of it is not conscious. It's not anything. It simply is. But through us...
Like a primal intelligence.
Yeah, I don't even think we can call it that. I think the intelligence is also evolving. I think it has no qualities. And I think that's important, because if we take something and we put it at the beginning, and we give it those qualities, we go, it's a primal intelligence. We've really just played the old mythic God did it trick. How did it happen? Oh, God did it. It's like, it hasn't explained anything. We've just taken an even bigger mystery and put it at the beginning. So if you put a primal intelligence at the beginning, you've just created a circle. Where did intelligence come from? It came from the primal intelligence. Hang on. We're just going round. So the deep philosophical idea that I'm working with here is to say, look, everything is the emergence of potentiality on ever more emergent ways. And intelligence is a really emergent way. So is consciousness. But as things emerge, so the past doesn't go anywhere. So the past is accumulating. So there's more and more information in the universe in every moment. And right now there's 13.8 billion years of information in our universe alone, and God knows how much from previous ones. So that information, that's the intelligence. Just like that information in you is what's giving you the intelligence to understand these words. You can understand these words because you have all of that past, which allows you to understand them. Right. That's the intelligence. And the universe the same. It is built up, that intelligence. as it's evolved, and it's reaching more and more intelligence. The universe is becoming wiser, just like us, through us, in fact. And it's becoming more conscious. So it doesn't start with that. That's where it's going. And when we come together and into a deep communion, you get this conscious oneness and this shared intelligence. And that, I think, is what we experience as God. That's when we experience this beautiful, transcendent presence, which we're moving towards.
You mean after death?
I think can be now, and I think after death also. Did that make some sense? What I was trying to explore there? We jumped in some very deep places here. Did it make some sense?
Yes, of course.
I want to come to Carol, and I want to just see what other people have written down here. So I'm just going to go through this first, Carol.
Tim, also Laurie's put her hand up as well.
Carol and Laurie, great, okay. But let me just, let's just do these because we've got these first. Is the ego the conscious part of the soul, or a part of the body level, or both? The ego is definitely part of the soul. The body is this, it's in space and time. And the ego but the soul's in relationship with the body. So you could say the ego is a kind of like, it obviously, look, here's Tim, and he's very much linked to this, which is how you know it's Tim. But here's a good way of getting the obviousness of it. If you went to see one of these films in which people swap bodies, what's moving is the individual self from a body. Oh, I'm in someone else's body. Never do you go and see a film in which a body goes, there's somebody else inside me. Because the thing we identify with now is not just the body. We identify with that deeper part, which is the hero of the story, the individual aspect, the representation of yourself within the soul. So it's obviously linked to the body, but it's an idea. And ideas are they're imaginal. They're on that level. So that's Marianne. Marianne, did that make sense what you were saying then? Yeah. Okay. Maybe we've forgotten is the level of consciousness, stabilizing our attention in the present moment and seeing us as part of the ecology, not only an individual soul. Yeah, I think we've dealt with that. It's exactly what I think. What you're saying there, Letitia, is exactly right. Is that, which is why with the individuality is seeing that we're individual and universal on all of these levels. And the deep awake state, the really deep one, is when you go, look, there's this universal being of which we are all we're all within, and that's why those meditations are so important.
What I think is that it's important to experience the level of consciousness, or the level of what were you saying, of being, to really understand the ecology that we are all part of. Maybe there's so much individuation. You know, everyone's always thinking about themselves, like their egos. And is it for you important to access this level of being in order to understand the ecology of human beings and the universe? And I don't know.
Yes, I know. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yes, absolutely it is. So there's two things in there which are useful. One is to say, look, with the ego, if the ego is a problem if you have just the ego.
Right.
If you have, right. It's a both and universe. If I think that all I am is Tim, then I will do what's going to benefit Tim, and that's it. And I will cause suffering all around me. And there are people in the world who are caught in that. And you can see it with extreme forms of narcissism, and there's it's disastrous. What we need is to have arisen from that. There's the individual, but we're connected with something which is also bigger than us. Then the ego is not a problem. It's a foundation.
Right.
So that's it. Just the ego that can be awful. And the thing which we connect with, which is bigger, is on all these levels, but the deepest one is what you're talking about. And that's the level where we connect with it well, if we connect with it as the source, it's the emptiness. And if we connect to it as God, it's the fullness. Because the emptiness contains everything. It's not empty.
Everything.
It's everything. And that's where you connect with this incredible presence, which is everything. And that oneness feels like love. So that's the great paradox, is what starts as emptiness ends up as love, as this fullness. And that's where we can connect together in this enormous love. When I say the universe is flowering into God, its roots are in formless emptiness, but it's flowering into this conscious oneness which contains everything, and we're the process in which that's happening. Right, let's go. We've got 2 more questions here, but I'm going to go to, it was Carol and somebody else and Laurie. So let's choose somebody. Jessica, are you still there?
Yeah, hi Tim. I don't want you to sort of think that you've done that marvellous explanation and that I have misunderstood. But we did have sort of a bit of an email conversation about it a little while ago, and you said you'd be prepared to talk about it.
Yeah.
And I wonder if I could just take a few minutes to go back to that email now. And again, also because when you try to explain about things are like bricks when they fall out of your mouth. Can I just read a little bit from the email, and then you tell me what I have got wrong still? Would you do that?
Okay, yeah, you can't just say it to me, or if you want to read it, you read it.
I can't easily say it.
Okay, that's fine.
I struggle a little bit with expressing myself, but
okay.
It's not long, and we've got a little bit more time. So, because I wrote to you and I said that my belief is that we are one aspect of this incredible soul love that you could call God. And I think of it as though for brief moments of time, we are lovingly ejected out into a composite body, still finally, though largely unnoticed, connected to the universal evolving imagination. And I think we're given time in the body in order to vividly experience multiple aspects of intense beauty, pain, gorgeousness, and growth, in the way that every sentient life does. And then with love, we are returned to the mothership to be entwined, intermingled, absorbed, and energized with love before being returned for a further expedition. We do this because the imagination, energy, God, has been able to create a physical sensate body, which is us, which a soul portion can be linked to in order to more directly enable the creator, that is us, me, imagination, soul, to fully and sensorially interact with the gloriousness of this perfect and imperfect world. So have I now repeated what you just said, or have I got aspects wrong?
Well, I'm not going to tell you you're right or wrong. You have to judge that for yourself, Carol. What I will say is that I think you're saying something different. And I think you're saying something which is in the zeitgeist. It's around a lot at the moment. And I think it's benign, so I don't have a problem with it. I think it's a lovely myth. And I think we have these myths because they bring meaning to our lives. And it's based on a very old myth, and it's based on the idea that God it's a benign version of the fall. So we haven't fallen, we've been lovingly ejected, and we're coming out to experience the universe. And if you say it in a nice tone of voice and don't look at the incredible suffering which is going on right now, which would break your heart, it seems quite reasonable. But to not put too much finer point on it, if God has ejected people out to die horribly within the first year of their life or be tortured, then he's a fucker and I don't want anything to do with him. That's the honest truth. I'm an old Gnostic and I rebel against that. That's a horrible vision to me. Now, if you say it in a nice tone of voice, it's a nice vision, but look at the world. Look at what we're in. And that doesn't make any sense to me. So what I'm suggesting is something slightly different, which is that we haven't been ejected from anything. It also has the same problem that we had earlier. If you take God and you put God at the beginning, you've explained nothing, which is why, as this is where eventually we had to give up on that, I think. All you've done is you've gone, where does the universe come from? Oh, well, God did it. Oh, God, right, that's it then. It's like, well, what's that mean?
We are just one soul.
I know, but that's...
I feel we are one soul.
I know, well, we are. That's because we really are. Because we really are. And that's what we're growing into. And that's what this is about. That's what the communion's for. So the key thing I'm doing, which is slightly different, and I think is much more optimistic and much more positive, is it's going, we are growing into that, not we've been ejected from that. So that thing, that communion of souls, that's what's arising from the universe. So we can go, look, everything is emerging into higher and higher forms, which doesn't mean you've got anything at the beginning you can't explain. And it's growing into this incredible experience, which I suspect everyone here has had or will have, of communing as one soul with all souls. I call it the communion of souls, which is God, which is this deep, deep love. And that's what's emerging. Now, that allows us to have this rather elegant, I think, understanding what existence is, that it's the realization of potentiality on ever more emergent ways. So let me just jump to another thing which has just been said here, because it actually relates to this, which is, Annie says, you said the other day that we are really moving into love, that individuality is love. Can you explain how the emptiness, which is by definition empty, can actually be love? Is the experience of love in the deeper states possibly just the opening that we experience when we let go and find freedom? In other words, love isn't inherent in emptiness, but it is just our joyful response to finding the freedom of emptiness. Yeah, I think maybe some of that. But I think the simplest thing, let me find Annie. On page 2. Hey, there we go. I think what I'm saying is this. Look, the emptiness or the formless, something which is but has no form, is the potentiality. So the phrases which I like at the moment is being and becoming. They're ancient phrases, but that there is something which is, that doesn't change, has no qualities, which is arising as everything that has qualities. And that being is this flow of time, and the emptiness is what it's arising in. But of course, what it actually is all of that. And so the reason it's love is because when we become conscious of the oneness, it feels like love, because love is how oneness feels. Love is the communion of two as one. So it's not the emptiness that feels like love. And I think that's why those forms of spirituality, if you look at them, especially a lot of the non-dual spiritualities, which are purely negative, are purely about getting away from separateness, getting rid of the ego, getting into a state of transcendence, no attachments, emptiness. There's often not a lot of love, because that's what's missing. The love is the fullness of everything. It's connecting everything. So that's why we're evolving towards love. So we've evolved now to the point where we're soul. We've evolved to the point where we're conscious. We're evolved to the point where we can be conscious of oneness. And in doing that, what we're conscious then is that the ground of being contains everything. It is everything. And that's where we start seeing something transcendent emerge, which is God. I want to just check in with Carol. How are you with that stuff, Carol?
Yeah, I'm beginning to just change my shift in ideas just a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Keep playing with that. Annie, how was that with you? Oh, you're on and off. There we are. You're back.
Am I? Yes.
Yeah, you're there.
Am I right in thinking the old kind of adage, clear mind, open heart, then is what we're looking at with is the experience of emptiness is the place of the spirituality, like you said, but the ego is where we experience the love? Or are you saying that the love is inherent in emptiness?
I don't think there's love in emptiness. I think emptiness is empty. But I think when we become conscious of the depths of being, we find the oneness of everything, and that is love. But it arises through the individual soul, really. But because the soul's embodied, you feel it in your body. It's it's not an abstract love. It's a, one of the things I love about the retreats is that we just like the love is, you can just see it dropping off people. It's just thick and lovely. So it reaches right into the body, but it's something which is happening in the soul, actually. That's where it's really happening. So it's a very much that's why we're evolving towards it. I think that's why when the soul comes into deep communion with other souls and with being, that's when there's this enormous love. And I think with the open heart, clear mind thing, I mean, it's a lovely saying. I do relate to it myself. I've said it for years. And I think what does it mean? I don't know. It's kind of like the open heart, I think, is about connection, that you're actually not isolated. That's where the ego is a boundary instead of a connection. And then the clear mind, I think the thing with the mind really is that that you're able to not get caught in the negative passivity. And when the mind gets a bad press, it's usually like the story gets a bad press. It's because we see it as negative passivity. Whereas actually what we want to do is build up positive passivity. So you can think clearly, you can stop thinking when you want to be still, you can take your attention out of thought altogether. When you do think, you can think inspiring thoughts or insightful or wise things. That we have, and that's the key thing we want, I think, is to have that ability to be sustained by the past in a positive way. Does that make some sense?
Yeah, that's perfect. Like the mind is a tool, and we can pick it up and put it down and use it for good.
Yeah, it's another faculty we have, and a beautiful one, and it's neither good nor bad. It's, the thoughts we think are good and bad, not the mind, not the thinking itself.
Thank you.
We were going to go to. I want to do Greg, because Greg has come up here, and then there was
Laurie's had her hand up, and then also, I think there's like 3 more messages as well.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with Greg, and then we're going to go with Laurie.
Cool.
Tim, do your ideas about psyche differ much from those articulated by Jung? Most of his terms, such as individuation, and I know he's helpful in development. I think I am closer and closer to Carl Jung all the time, Greg. And there's a few figures who, as I get older, I start realizing more and more about what they did. Whitehead's one, for instance, but Jung is definitely one. So I think his conception of the soul is really rich. I think he's deep to understand. I think you understand him far more than I do, and I'm always nervous, therefore, about projecting my ideas onto somebody else. But probably one of the biggest areas I feel like is that what I see in Jung is that he has a view of consciousness which is very much the Johnny-come-lately, the thing that's rising on the top of the vastness of the unconscious soul, and especially the past. And I think his archetypes are passivity. They're like thoughts and experiences which we've gone round so many times, like old man, getting old, mother, father, all of those things, that they've become the building blocks of the soul. And then the consciousness on the top is investigating that, but we don't identify with just the conscious soul. Now, what happens with a lot of the Eastern stuff, and what happens in a lot of spirituality today, is the emphasis is all on the conscious bit, whereas he's got a much deeper understanding of the soul, and that we can make it conscious. So that's how it looks to me. Does that, you know both my thoughts and his probably better than I do.
I think your idea of individuation is kind of what we're doing here in a way. Yeah. It's sort of combining the different realms. Somebody said that, I think it was Hillman, we only pretend to understand the powers that live us. And I think that goes to kind of the passivity that you were talking about. But the archetypes, the forces within us, they do control us to the extent that we're not conscious of them. And I think Jung was always challenging us to push consciousness further and further into the unconscious. And And that kind of goes to my next question was, it almost sounded to me like you were saying a minute ago that we should only credit God with good. And I think Jung's idea of that was privato boni. I believe that was the term he used. But if we credit God with only good, to whom or to what do we credit the suffering and evil in the world? And I know he struggled with that, and I do too. I guess the more I live, the more I'm beginning to come around to the idea that my idea of God is synonymous with love, and to the degree we don't experience love, then we experience the lack of it. It's not necessarily hate, it's the lack of love in life.
So, yeah, I mean, so the first thing is with the consciousness bit, the way I see it, Greg, is that, and this is where I do relate a lot to Jung, is that everything is the past. So everything is the foundation of repetition and passivity. And then, and most of it in the universe is unconscious. You could see science as a way of making the unconscious conscious. How does that work? It's happening unconsciously. We investigate it with consciousness. We work out how it's doing it. We make conscious the laws, the habits of nature, for instance. It's allowed us to have the internet. And then in ourselves, most of it is unconscious. I have no idea what I'm doing with my tongue and mouth. It's moving so fast. I've got no idea, for instance. And I don't know where these thoughts are coming from. I'm not thinking them first and then saying them to you. They're just flowing. But I'm conscious of them, and if I make a mistake, I could go, oh, sorry, Greg, that's wrong. And so there's those elements. And then I think what Jung really pioneered was the idea that you can go looking in the depths of your passivity and transform it. That you can find where you've set up a habit which isn't serving you, and you can have a dialogue in this world of images with your own self. You can form your soul, which is...
So you're saying passivity, not passivity. Is that correct?
Passivity, the past.
Passivity with a T, yeah. Okay.
Passivity, the past, not passivity. No. Passivity, which is a name that I've coined for the kind of gravity of the past, the way things repeat. So that everything is the habits of nature. Everything is the repetition, as Peirce and Sheldrake and Lee Smolin now as well, the physicists. More and more people are getting that.
I misheard you earlier when you said passivity. Right. I thought you said passivity.
Sorry, they're very close, aren't they? and then the nature of God. So I wrestle with that, and this is the way I've resolved it for me. And it was a big thing for me. I resolved it the minute I went, this is not coming from God, it's going to God.
Mm-hmm. It's evolving.
This is not arising from God, it is flowering into God. And what we take to be evil is really always the lower levels of emergence, whether that's lower levels of cultural emergence or lower levels of biological emergence we have to live with, and the physical necessity from which we come, that we have to live with this whole spectrum from which we've emerged as we're reaching towards ever more emergent good. And that the reason that God is good, and the reason that God is love, as it says so beautifully in the Christian tradition, is because it is the most emergent thing, which the universe is moving towards. But it transcends and includes everything, but it holds it within love, so that God isn't doing it all, or allowing it all, or responsible for the evil. Quite the opposite. God, through the love that unites it, it redeems the evil. It's the only thing. What could possibly redeem all of the suffering that is going on now and throughout history? One thing, I think, can redeem it. That it's all going somewhere good. And that through all of the horror and all the rest of it, where it is going is good. Just like in our own lives. The minute some awful thing turns into good, it's redeemed. It doesn't make it disappear, but it is redeemed in a very big way. So that I see that love which unites everything as this complete redemption for all of the suffering. So the God at the end, the God to which we're moving, the God which is emerging, is redemptive. The God at the beginning is an insane monster. And that for me was the big transition. In fact, when it happened with me, because my early experiences of awakening were all with God. I was in love with God. And then the problems became too big. And I kind of moved into more of a non-dual, Advaitic thing, and God disappeared. Didn't work. I almost became a friar. It didn't work. And then with this transition, the words that came out of my mouth when it happened was, oh, God's back. It's like, oh my God, I can be in love with God again. Oh, thank goodness for that. What a relief.
The thing I love about that, Tim, is that the idea of going to God or back to God is it holds open that idea of missing the mark, and to the degree to which we fall short of the love and perfection that we're called to seek. We're just missing the mark. We haven't got it right yet. We keep trying, but we don't have it right yet.
That's exactly it. And so that's an idea some of you may not know. I've known Greg for a long time. I visited him a few times when I was writing my books on Gnosticism. And one of the things which we discussed at length then, which I think is always interesting if you don't know it, is that this word sin, which we've grown up with, the word in Greek is hamartia. And it comes from archery, and it means to miss the mark. You miss the point. That's what it means. You're aiming somewhere and you miss. That's what it is to sin. Actually, that's what the word actually means. And the word for repentance is metanoia, which means to change direction. So you miss the mark, and the solution is, well, change direction. So what I think is happening for us, you understand it from that perspective, is we're learning, we're trying to find where to hit the mark as much as missing it. We try it out. I do that every day, don't you? I try it out. I try and be the best Tim I can be. I try and find my individuality. I try and find my love. And sometimes I hit the mark or close to it perhaps, and it feels good. And then I miss the mark and I go, I just and then I try again, and I try again, and I try again. And as I've got older, I think I have become better at doing that. And I'm a bit wiser, which means I hit the mark, I think, more than I used to. And that's good. And that's my soul learning and growing. And that's what we can do here. We can encourage each other. And then the way we think about things can really help us be clear. It's like, that's how you hit the mark. Oh, that's the mark. Okay. And if you've got things which don't make sense, it can make it really hard to deal with that. Laurie, you had your hand up ages ago. Where are you?
Hi. Tim, I am wondering if you would share your thoughts on like a tipping point. Because when I think of this emergence, other words I think of are like a wave or a tide and surging. And it seems like you are going with this movement. Is there something about the number of people who have this awareness of the both and of individual and all? Is there something about the percentage of time those people are aware of that? The both and of that? Is there something that makes this happen more? Is there a surge that is going on?
So I think. I'm just going to distract myself, Laurie, for 1 second, because I've got a message from Judith. Am I the only one experiencing a sound issue on Tim's mic? Are you experiencing sound issues on my mic? Can everyone hear me? Okay, great. So Judith, I'm sorry. Can you? I can't hear you, Judith. Sorry, but can you hear me? Hopefully you can hear me. Okay, great.
Thank you. I can now.
You can. That's great.
Thank you.
So, Laurie, yeah, look, what you've said is a really deep thing, and I think it happens, doesn't it? And it happens. The example for me, because I lived through it, was the Berlin Wall. You know, the Berlin Wall was never ever going to come down, and then one day, it just did. And how? And people just decided, and then the people that were stopping them went, nah, take it down. and then it was down. That's how things happen in the world. And so I think you're right. I think there will be a tipping point. And I think the more of us, and most change comes from a small group of people, actually. Quite often a very small group. How big, how much we need to establish it, whether it'll happen in our lifetimes, I haven't got a clue. I'm suspecting we're sowing seeds for future generations, but I don't know. I may be wrong. So, I don't know how we tell, because I have no idea how widespread this is. I know that the people I meet are amazing. Really, really amazing. But that's the people I meet. And then when I switch on the news, it seems to be full of really unamazing people. So the difference between my life as I actually experience it and the life on the news is like two different poles. So which one's real? Have I got a small little group of people who are really waking up and are beautiful people and really just people who want to be good people? Really, just people who've got good intentions, really kind people. Not perfect, but having a go and doing well. Is that who we are? Or are we these crazy people shouting and screaming and blowing things up? And is that who we are? Well, I guess we're probably both. What's the percentage? I don't know. I mean, the vast majority of people I meet are amazing. Just even on the street. So I have no answer. Is the answer, Laurie? I just don't know. I just don't know. And I don't know how we do know. And I think all we can do is just keep doing our best. And one day, I think the Berlin Wall will come down. That's in terms of separateness, and we'll go through. And I have huge faith that will happen. And I don't think it's blind faith. I think there is every reason to believe it will happen. I have no idea how quickly, or you know, or also then, you know, I don't, you know, please never mistake me. I don't think when I talk about emergence, I don't think it's like a straight line. I don't think things just get better. I mean, really, they don't. Look at history. Things can get much worse, and there's countries right now for whom things are getting much worse, and that can happen too. Which is why it matters that we engage. It is a creative process. It's not all written out in advance. We're doing this, and right now it seems pretty easy for us to do it, but it may take more and more courage. We don't, you know, in the past it's taken a lot of courage to do it as well. Okay, got some. That's good. Lennart, hiya. How do we build passivity that supports us? What do you think?
Yeah, good question. So I think it's very important to be aware of the stories that we tell ourselves. I'm actually doing a 12-month program of building stories that support supportive stories in general. And I found it very transformative because for the first time I've actually noticed that I was telling myself things like, oh, I'm just so bad at maths, or you know, that's just so typical, stuff like that. And instead of that, we can actually replace this with positive loops, like focusing on the positive, and also I'm finding it a bit hard to explain now, but I think I'm getting
you're doing a fantastic job at it. I love that. I think that's really, really, really lovely. And you know, when we've been talking about the philosophy tonight, I very much see that as trying to create a positive story. And it's a positive story which I hope can include and not turn away from all the negative. It can include all of that within something which is ultimately redemptive and hopeful. So I think the stories we tell are hugely important, which is why if we can shift the underlying philosophy, everything will change. And the underlying philosophy at the moment can be pretty negative. There's no two ways about that. And then we do it to ourselves, which is that idea of who we are. So, which is why for me, the underlying story, we'll each have our different things. Yours can be I'm bad at maths. Mine can be I'm also bad at maths and some other things. Whatever it is, to this and to that. But if you've got an underlying story that you are an emergent evolutionary soul, then you have the chance to build on that and transform. And I came across something today. I was doing some research for this book I'm working on consciousness, and I was on the internet looking at some things, and there's this wonderful phrase which you've probably heard me use, which I always credit to Ken Wilber: transcend and include. That when things emerge, they transcend and include what's gone before. And I discovered it wasn't Ken Wilber. Actually, he'd stolen it from Hegel, which was quite fun. And what I saw was that actually you can reverse it, and it becomes quite interesting. Because I always just copied the phrase I'd heard. That's passivity for you. I heard transcend and include, so that's what I said. But I just turned it around for a moment and just went, what we need to do is include and transcend. And I think there's a huge we can do with passivity, with including and transcending, which means for me, we can accept all we've been. We can include it within us. And then we can find ourselves going beyond it. So the transformation and soul formation, for me, seemed to start with accepting the way that Tim is. Mm-hmm. And then from that, being willing to see, but from that ground, I can turn into something else. I can reimagine Tim. I can step out into something new. And then being willing to do it. And then the key with it, I think then, is like passivity is something you lay down. So that can be a very big experience, can do it, but mostly it's repetition. So anything you've ever learned, I'm suspecting, is nearly always repetition. I'm just doing this thing, Leonard. Here's an example from me. I'm doing this crazy thing where because I'm a bit of an extremist, as you might have noticed, I look for, in my life, I look for things I'm telling a story to myself that I would never do. And then when I spot this thing I'd never do, not bad things, but other things that I'd never do, I kind of go, what would happen if I tried that? Because I'd be a different person if I tried that. So maybe I'll try it. So one of the things I'd never do is weightlifting. So I caught myself earlier on in the year, and I thought, that's something I'd never do. And a friend of mine, young chap, is just taking up teaching people weightlifting. And I went, damn it, I'm going to do it. And I've been doing it 3 times a week for the last quite some time. And when I started, it was so embarrassing. It was a lovely moment, actually. He said to me, get a hold of the bar and just do a chin up. So just hang there and pull a chin up. So I hanged onto the bar, and then he said, right, now pull yourself up. I said, I'm trying. I didn't move at all. I just hang there. Didn't move. So that's where I started. And then last week I did my first chin up. Just pulled myself up. It's like, oh my God, I'm going up. And that's just doing it every week. And then my old 60-year-old body, which was getting weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker, is actually stronger than it's ever been. That's the passivity. I just decided, what would happen if I just worked in a certain way? Well, of course, it will become more like that. When I was younger, I decided I wanted to learn to meditate, and I meditated a lot. And I found out that if you do it a lot, it becomes much, much easier, and you go much, much deeper. I wanted to learn to play the musical instrument, exactly the same. Anything's like that, isn't it? Studying. So it's about 2 things. You're forming your soul. So what's the story, as you said, through which you're forming your soul? Find the deepest story, and then build up those things which support you going forward. And then just be willing to look at the things which you feel are holding you back, and going, I can change that. And you can change it.
And that's really important to me that you say that that it's about integration of things that are holding you back, instead of just trying to shift your attention towards good things and trying to exclude the bad things. But instead of that, they do have to be integrated into a constructive narrative. Right?
Exactly. Integrated. Oh, it's beautiful. I love that. Integrated into a constructive narrative. Include and transcend. That's it. So you find a way, and on the deepest levels, some of us, I haven't had this, so I always feel like I have to be careful because I've had such a relatively easy time of things. But some people have the most enormous wounds, especially from when they were small, and it's very hard, when the soul gets hurt that early on. It's very deep in the passivity. But even then, we can go back and transform those wounds into deep wisdom. In fact, sometimes the deeper the wound, the deeper the wisdom. And it can take a lot of courage. Well, Greg was talking earlier about Carl Jung. I mean, what Carl Jung was doing was he saw himself as a doctor of the soul, which was about how do we bring healing? How can we transform these wounds that we have in us, this passivity? How can we transform it into something positive? How can we make it a platform to go forward? And they can make us strong. They can make us courageous. They can make us wise. They can be our qualities. And each one of us, what makes you and me is that you're a different set of qualities based on different experiences. And so you bring something which I haven't got, and I bring something which is different again. And when we meet, that's what makes it so interesting. Does that help a little bit? Does that make sense?
Totally, yeah.
We've got a muffled alarm clock. Okay, well, there's no alarm in my noise. I'm so sorry you're having trouble with the sound. There is no muffled alarm clock in my room, so I don't know where that's coming from. Must drop off. Okay, that's a goodbye. By Ken. We had a question, I think I've got all of those, on reincarnation from Henry. Is that coming in with the reincarnation, Henry, or something else? Reincarnation. Reincarnation?
It was also something else.
Okay, let's do the something else first, because we're on that thread.
I've been thinking about what you've been saying about the fall.
Yeah.
And you wrote about the fall in Soul Story. And it's just not all clear to me. So I'm curious if you could explain more about what you were writing and what you're saying.
I meant by the fall?
Yes.
Okay, so the dominant idea, which arose somewhere around the Axle Age, which is 2,500 years ago, which seems to be what human beings were going through, the evolution of soul that was happening. We took a jump. My guess is, and this is purely a guess, is that what happened was that there was an awakening started to happen to these deeper levels of being. And my experience when that happened to me was this, wow, and then it would go. And I suspect that's what happened to them, and it's what happens to most people. You suddenly get this, oh my God, I'm in touch with this incredible oneness, there's enormous love, everything is wow, and then you lose it. And the conclusions that they drew, which are very tempting to make, is, oh, I see, I'm getting pulled back down into this terrible place where there's a lot of suffering, and I can get free, and that therefore I've fallen into this. And they didn't have an idea of evolution. They had the idea that there was a perfection, God, Brahma, from which everything had emanated. And the theory of emanation is basically things have got slowly more dense and more lost. So it starts with pure spirit, and then it becomes soul, and then mind, and then body, and then animal, and then mineral, and then you're really that. So that the lesser, it's all fallen into the lesser. In Kabbalah, it comes from Keta, the emptiness, and then it comes down and breaks, and it all skelters down until you're down here, and your job is to get back up. So it's a myth of falling. And in the Christian tradition, we have the same thing, that we were in heaven, it was all great, and then we fell. And it's a punishment. So human life, incarnation, you are a perfect soul incarnate in matter, and that's why you're suffering. So that's the mythos that dominated human consciousness for a very long time. What's happened over the last few hundred years is we've begun to turn that around into a more positive one, which can incorporate the wisdom which was there, but see it in a new way, because we come after them. So we have the ability to look back and go, let's see it differently. And what comes after that, and so we now have this evolutionary model. And what I'm trying to do is it could be really positive if we could integrate the depth of that spiritual experience with this evolutionary model. If we can go, look, this simple idea that things are becoming richer and richer and richer, and they start simple and become complex. This is a very powerful idea which explains so much. I think it can also explain spiritual experience. And that means turning it around from this very negative spirituality of the fall into this emergent spirituality, which is evolutionary. And that's essentially it. Does that explain it a bit more, Henry?
Yes, thank you.
So, which brings me perfectly to your other question, which was about reincarnation. And then we're going to do this, and then we're going to have a 5-minute little break, and we'll come back. So the idea with the transmigration of the soul, which is something which I think we should take seriously, is that the soul is this level of non-physical information which has arisen from biology, and it's because it's not made of matter, and it's non-local. When the body dies, it survives. And what I experimented with was the idea that we can come into a deeper communion of souls, which is the light which people experience after death, and that we can sustain that for a while, and then we'll find ourselves back into what I called a psychosymbiotic relationship with the body, which is like a symbiotic relationship between two levels of information, if you will. One which is non-material, which is psychic, which is soul, and one which is arising biology, and that these come into relationships with each other and come in and out, in and out, in and out. That's what this ancient idea of transmigration, of which I think there's quite a bit of evidence actually, is actually about. It's a natural process. And in my TED talk, if you've seen that, if you haven't, you should watch it. I shared this idea that the evolution itself is evolving. So that we think of evolution as natural selection. That, or something like it, I suspect that's not quite right either, is evolution on the biological level. And that the evolutionary process is continually itself evolving. But there's an underlying process which has stayed the same right from the beginning, when there was hydrogen, which evolved into the universe, the physical universe, which evolved into all of life. And I suggested, look, what's happened is that natural selection, or something like it, which is basically throw up a new possibility. If it fits in, it survives. If it fits in and reproduces, it survives. If it doesn't fit in and reproduce, it dies out. It's a brilliant, brilliant mechanism. And the key to it is death. It works because biological organisms die. And because they die, it clears away all old ones and lets room for new ones all the time. And that mechanism of natural selection, life and death, has produced in relatively short time, really, a few million years, a billion years, has produced all of this variety of life. Incredible. My suggestion was that with the arising of soul, the level of individuation is no longer about species. It's about individuals. And natural selection is a fantastic way, life and death, great way to develop species, but a terrible way to individuate individuals because they keep dying. And that what's happened is that we've therefore evolved onto a level where the individual soul does not die. And it's able to maintain its evolution. And now the evolutionary process is no longer natural selection, it's the transmigration of soul. That moving into just the imagination and then back into relationship with the body, back into the imagination. And Henry's question was, why do we remember so little? So I want my response is to say, well, what's memory? And I think the answer is that memory is our relationship with the past. Now, everything is in relationship with past. Everything. But it's not just in relationship with it. It's a progression of it. Everything. So, this is falling because of the past. It's the pastivity. We call it gravity, but that's what it is. And everything's like that. So, So what we're doing with memory is we are consciously conceptualizing the past, which is why it can often be very faulty. And we do it by putting it in a present story. So we tell a story about the past. So we have a relationship, a conscious relationship with the past in the present. That's quite a tricky thing to do. I don't know about you, but I could get back. It starts getting pretty vague. And then by about the age of 7, there's not much. And then there's really some photographs that I've told a story about. So it doesn't surprise me, Henry, that we don't remember our past lives, because I don't even remember this one. What I find interesting, however, is that people say who've had a near-death experience, once we're free from the lower levels of emergence, once we're free from the body temporarily, experience not only they remember everything, it's so vivid, it's like it's present with them. And that's called the life review. So people who come back from near-death experiences, most of them have a life review where they remember a lot. And I love that Socrates, one of his famous quotes was, people say that death is forgetting, but don't they know this is forgetting and death is remembering? So I think there's a remembering which happens when we're in a more emergent state. And the key thing that's key in terms of your real question, which was like, well, what relevance is that? Is that although I can't remember most of what Tim did in his life, none of it has gone anywhere. It is what Tim is. And there may come a time when I do remember. And it may be when I die. But even if I don't, it is still what I am. Even if I get dementia, it is still what I am. Because I am the whole of my past. And if I have lived past lives, I am them too. It's the very fabric of my being. And that, I think, is the important thing. So that what we come with has an effect on who we already are. And certainly when I came in and had my experiences of life, it did feel like that. It felt like I know this. And even though I couldn't remember it. Does that address some of what you were thinking?
Definitely. Thank you.
All right, my friends. So we've got a long session, but it's already 10 to 8. It's moved so fast and all the rest of it. I'm going to give us just a very short break until, 8 o'clock our time. So it's 10 minutes. So if you need a breather and just let things shift, then we'll move into a different phase and we'll gather back here. So we'll be as quick as we can, but it gives you a chance to have a comfort break, as they say. All but 2 here. So while we're just waiting for Barnaby and Laurie to switch on their videos, I'll just mention a question from Doug. Hi, Doug. Nice to see you. You were asking about the inscrutable mystery. And I'm guessing your question was, well, you tell me. You tell me what you meant by that.
No, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay, because I'm not on the screen.
Yeah, sorry, that's my fault, Doug.
No, I was just writing something for my own personal use, and I just asked you if inscrutable mystery was a, now I can't think of the word, saying the same thing twice.
Oh, I see what you mean. Oh. Now I understand. I'm glad I asked you. I thought you were saying, is there still, once you've got understanding, is there still room for mystery? What you were saying was simply are those words, they mean the same thing? How funny. Now I understand completely what you're saying. Yes, they are the same thing, aren't they?
Okay, so you shouldn't use them together, in other words.
Yeah, you're right. It's just going the table.
That's what I thought. Okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, cool. That's funny. Great. Excellent. So, Laurie and Barnaby, have we lost you? Can you, I think, Laurie's back. Great. So it's just Barn. That's the numbers. All right. So this is what we're going to do, folks. Everything I'm doing, it's the paralogical approach, right? It's like both and. So there's this, we can use the clarity of our understanding, the wisdom, the love and the wisdom. And the love side is very much, I think, about how we connect. So what I want to do now is to send everyone off into a room online with another person. And what I invite you to do is you'll be with someone. Now, you probably won't be someone you know, might be, but it probably won't be. So, do say hello if you want to, and all of that human stuff. That's fine. But don't get too much into that. And then come into silence with each other. And do this deep gazing that I've been exploring, this amazing gazing. And so what I'm going to invite you to do is just see that what you're seeing on the screen is an image of somebody's face. But even if you could see their actual face, what you're really connecting with, well, you're connecting with the face, of course, and that's beautiful, the body to body, the sensory experience. But then you're connecting with something beyond that. You're connecting with the hero in the story of that person. You're connecting with the soul. You're connecting with something which is non-material, full of love and fear and pain and joy and experience and wisdom and everything, just like you. So just sit there and connect with that, and then really look and really feel, and you can hit this place where you see, look, I am formless being. That's what I am at my depths. And when I look at you, like right now, I can see a picture of Marianne in front of me, and there's Rob next door, and there's Doug, and there's Stephen, Susanna. What I'm connecting with is that same being in arising in another form, looking back at me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you into the different rooms. We'll give you a little bit of time to chat. And then let's give 3 or 4 minutes to just sit quietly and see what happens when you connect being with this other being. And then Jessica will send you a note going, okay, we're going to call you back in a minute. And that will give you a minute, and you can just say how it felt and just share some feelings with that person if you want to. So it's really simple. It's very playful. Here's a thing which happens with the internet. We're all in different places, and our cameras are at different angles, and our eyes will probably not connect. It doesn't matter. It is not actually about the eyes. What the eyes become is just a point of focus. The key thing is what you're paying attention to. So even though you might not be looking at your camera, or the other person might be looking at their screen, not their camera, don't let that worry you in the slightest. Just take the image and reach through the image as a point of loving attention. Give that other person your loving attention so that you connect. And we're, physically, we're literally the other side of the world. I'm going to see Rob there. He's literally the other side of the world to me. And yet we're right here together, and there's no distance between us whatsoever. And that's a pretty amazing thing to know. So that's what we're going to do. Anyone got any questions with that? If you have, raise your hands or give us a little wave. All right.
Can I just add one practical note?
Yes, you can.
So you'll be given a sort of 60-second warning to sort of come back. But if you're in the middle of gazing, you can stay there until the end, and then you will automatically be brought back. So when you get that notice, you can come back into the main sort of group room when you're ready, or you can just wait, and then you'll automatically be brought out when your breakout room closes.
Wonderful. And so we'll give people long enough, Jessica, to just say a very quick hello, and then we'll let them gaze for 3 or 4 minutes, and then the minute back out. Okay.
Yeah.
And partly, you can feel that out yourself as well as to how we're going.
Okay.
All right. Let's do it. Mics, because it's just visuals.
Yeah, the mics just unmute themselves automatically when you spotlight, but yeah.
Oh, does it? Okay. All right. You can bring everyone back.
It's got two breakout rooms, so 4 people.
Okay.
They'll be coming back in the next 20 seconds.
All right, my lovers. So let's just hear a few voices about how that was. Give us a little wave if you feel like you'd like to. Or just maybe you can unmute yourself and just. Here we go, Susanna. Let's have Susanna.
Hi there. That was an amazing experience. I've never done anything like that. But I have done something like that before, many years ago, when I was doing my transpersonal psychotherapy training. And we used to do that. But this time it was like the first time I've done it online, and doing it with Judith it was just so beautiful. It was so beautiful. I can't put another word to it, really. And thank you so much for that extraordinary experience, Judith. And I just loved it, and I want to do lots more of it. Yeah, thank you.
Wonderful. Yeah, let's do lots more of it. I love that. Someone else. Let's hear another voice. Thank you, Susanna. That's beautiful. Yeah, Dan.
Hi.
Hi.
I find, like, because it's quite early over where I am, sometimes it's hard to get the real focus of it. But it's kind of like you get bits and pieces of like real magic moments, and then sometimes it's like hard to really focus the attention as well. So I really got the poles of both the experience today.
Great. I get that completely. You know exactly what you mean. Thank you, Dan. That's wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, we move in and out, don't we? Marianne.
Hi. I did some casing with Debbie, and we have met before. And I was wondering if that connection is stronger if one had met physically, or is it? It's something with the eyes. The eyes are not important. I know that, but nevertheless, there is something important with it. If you do it with complete strangers, is it? Are the eyes? I feel something about if you look in the eye, then it's stronger.
Mm-hmm. So I'm sure you're right. If we, physically, it's hard to beat physically. But what was so lovely about Susanna coming straight in was her connecting with Dida was, that it happens anyway. And it's right there anyway. So, honest to goodness, I'm loving this. It's amazing what we could do. I love the fact we're all over the world. There may be something significant and important about that, actually, that we are literally all over the world. That could be more, I think of it as like, oh, well, what a shame. But it could be insignificant. But also, if I could wave a magic wand, you'd all be here in my room with me. And we'd be actually a bit holding hands and doing it. Because I love that connection. But and if you do it with somebody and you get to know them, it has another element, which is you have that passivity. It's like that's already there. I feel it with you now. Wasn't there the first time we met? Now it is. There's our individual relationship, and that builds and becomes a platform on which you can go deeper and deeper together as well. I think that's what happens. Greg.
Tisha, I'm in the middle of the United States and she's in Buenos Aires. And yet it was like we were right here in the same room. And I hope I don't embarrass her in any way by saying this, but I had the beautiful, calming presence that I felt with my grandmother, who was very special to me in my early years. And there was something about her demeanor or her expression or something that just immediately brought that back. And it was just very delightful. So thank you for reconnecting me with one of my favorite people.
Fantastic. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that just beautiful? And so simple, isn't it, guys? What we're doing here really is this simple essence of it, right on the, that's what it is. Anyone else? Barnaby.
Hello. Yeah, I was just going to say that what is lacking in the being in the same room factor is made up for, I think, by being all around the world. I was on there with Doug. You know, literally it's on another continent. There's molten rock between us, you know, and it's just far out. It's really far out. So yeah, you don't see the detail. You are seeing a two-dimensional image made of pixels, but that makes it more powerful because you're still there in the same, you know, soul-wise. You're right in the same space together. So yeah, I think it's a different experience, but with all things, pros and cons, I think what's lacking is made up for with something else. It's very cool.
What's striking me, Barn, and it's so obvious, but I haven't really clocked it until tonight in such a powerful way, is we are the first human beings ever to do this. Ever.
Yeah.
No human beings ever before.
Captain Kirk, I think, did it in the 60s.
That's in the future.
Oh yeah, good point.
No human beings have ever gazed into each other's eyes around the world until us, this generation. We can now do it. We have created the means to do it. That's huge, isn't it? And we're doing it. We're actually taking that technology and we're going, hey, let's use that technology to connect soul to soul with people who are literally right the way around the globe. Isn't that an amazing thing? All right. Wow, that's pretty good, isn't it? Wow.
David's raised a hand.
Yeah.
So I'll unmute him.
Oh, good. Thank you. Yeah, I have two things to say. The first is a response to Barnaby's revelation and you're clocking it in a new way, Tim. I remember back before there was Facebook, there was MySpace. And it was such a phenomena to watch millions of people come onto MySpace every day. It was like a migration to an eighth continent, if you will, local continent. And we were choosing to occupy this eighth continent. And I think that's an interesting way to think about what the internet is or what it has enabled. It's aligned, or it's a tool or an avenue or a platform so that we can deepen our soul connection. And it seems to me that nobody thought about making it up and doing it. It just happened. Millions and millions and millions of people every day were coming to the new continent. And this is what it's evolved to over the last 20 years or so.
God, that is such a great image, David. I've never heard that image. That is a fantastic image for it. Absolutely beautiful.
And the thing that I wanted to share about my time with Stephen was a recognition of feeling a sense of friendship. Somehow the word friendship was key or foundational or core or center, that okay, all I really know about the guy is he's in England, he has a beautiful presence about him, and I'm sharing this time and space with him. And there was this just like, almost like champagne running through my veins or something. And I recognize that as this is true friendship, friendships can evolve in many, many ways, but they evolve from this essence to essence connection. So I don't know if more will, get personal with me and Stephen. Maybe he'll bring his boat to Hawaii and we'll meet and can share a beer or something. But just the importance of feeling the friendship between he and I on an essence level somehow empowers my being to be more confident about moving into the universe and beaming my light and invitation everywhere to everybody for that invitation to come home to the essence. And then from there, let's create.
Wow. Beautiful, David. Thank you so much. That's just so beautifully put. Just so deep. Beautiful.
And can we all come to Hawaii?
In your boat. Someone else, I saw Sharon, I think you waved. Did you? Yes, you did. We just need to unmute you. There you go. You're unmuted.
No, when you were speaking about just how the internet these days, just prior to the break, my mom lives with me. She's 92. And she walked into the room, and I was trying to explain her, no, I'm at a meeting. I'm talking with all these people from all over the world. And she's like, well, what channel are you watching? I mean, so I had to, it was difficult to try to explain this to someone who really doesn't have a conception of the internet and what's going on. It was challenging for me. And she was like, oh, that's really nice.
It is really nice, isn't it? It is quite astonishing.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So the feeling I'm getting, and I'm going to look for, like I said, leave comments and things on the Facebook page, but we really can connect in this way. Rob.
To unmute myself, I wasn't sure if I can be heard.
Yep, definitely hearing you.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Tim, just thinking, just as an extension of the way we're connecting to each other, and thinking back to the retreat which we did, one of the exercises you introduced us to there, which was for me one of the most difficult, but in hindsight probably one of the most valuable, was where you had us split off into pairs, and one would hold the space while the other was sort of talking about something in the past that was holding us back. And I wasn't going to bring this up, but you sort of mentioned it, and people from the pastivity that people have things in their past and traumatic experiences. And I feel for me, quite often it's something that's holding me back. Like there's some sort of expansion or something is starting to happen. It's like something comes up and grabs it, goes, no, you don't. It's and so this is something that I've been working on, and I'm starting to sort of do some of that inner shadow work. And the idea just came to me that if we can go off, split off like this, and do the gazing. I don't know whether it's appropriate for us to do something like that, whether we spend a few minutes with each other and maybe do an exercise like that as well.
I think that's a fantastic idea, Rob. So Rob and I met folks in Japan, which was an amazing experience. I think it's a really, really positive thing to do. I did consider it for this evening. Jessica mentioned it to me because we did it at the last retreat and it was hugely popular and deep. My feeling is, although we have half an hour left, that actually tonight it may be too much, because I think it needs more preparation and we need to feel our way into it. But I think if this has worked and we're going to go for longer sessions, then at the next one, I'll make it the center of it. And we'll really give plenty of time, because I think we need to give everyone the necessary support and the space to do it in. But I do want us to do some more connecting together. But I think the idea you're saying is a really strong one. I'm just feeling it out now, just to think, is it possible that we could do that now? But my gut feeling is that I think we need to wait till next time. What do you think, Rob?
Oh, sure, Tim. I didn't necessarily mean, that we should do that now.
Oh, you see, that's me. You see, I just come straight to,
yeah.
Should we do it now?
No, but I mean, by all means, it's something of, as I said, for me, it's difficult. And I thought, well, for who better than we're, meeting as individuals, and, we're sharing a common,
I've got it, Rob.
A common purpose for being here, and to be vulnerable. It's not something you want to do with just anybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we should do it, but I think we'll do this with the thing which Rob has experienced, and we did at the retreat, where some of you will have experienced. Oh, by the way, let me just say that so I don't forget it, darlings. If you want to do this in person, if you want to experience an immersion where we sink into this with beautiful music and candles and just connect with person after person after person, it will blow your heart open. It really will. And we're going to be, and I'm not doing many at the moment, but we've got one in New Year, and it's a celebration. We'll have a party afterwards. It's an unbelievably beautiful thing to come and do. And so there's one retreat planned at the moment, and it's at New Year, and there's a few places. So, if you're tempted, come, because it will just be an experience you treasure. It really will. So there's that. But I think we should do this, because we have got the time. I'm going to ask Jessica to put you back into a room. You'll be with somebody else. You can make that happen, Jessica, can't you? You can do it randomly.
Yes, I can do it randomly.
Yeah. You're going to go back and you're going to be in the room with somebody else. And what I want you to do is, we're not going to go for the full thing that Rob described, because that's too intense and too much to do in the time we've got available. But we can do this, and I think it's important. We're going to build on the gazing. So you'll be with somebody else, and one of you to decide who's going to go first. And then one of you will be quiet. And so if I was with Rob, when Rob was speaking, if I was with Rob now, my job would be just to hold Rob in my loving attention, completely, absolute, total acceptance. I am just being with Rob, and we'll give Rob 3 or 4 minutes just to reach inside and just describe in whatever language comes where he finds himself on his soul journey right now. And it can be a little tiny aspect of it, or anything you want, because it's not the importance of what's said isn't particularly the importance. The importance is to hold that person and allow them just to share who they are on their journey right now. And then you'll get a message from Jessica, and you'll say swap over, and then you swap, and then if you just change over. So now your job is to hold that person within your loving attention, just as they are. Your job then is to be the big love, and within which they can explore and just say, this is what's most important to me. This is what's happening for me. This is what my journey is. And like Rob says, what's so great here is literally we're in a totally safe space, and you can take advantage of that and just share authentically. We can actually be vulnerable with each other, and when we are, that's when the souls commune. So let's just do that. All right, Jessica?
Yes.
Everyone okay with that? Any questions? Annie and John, have you got cameras you can switch on? Are you still with us, Annie and John? Yes, you are. You are. Brilliant. Okay, that's what we're going to do. And how was that, my lovelies? Oleg and Marianne, how was that? Let's have Oleg, let's open up your microphone. Can we do that? Hi.
Hi.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah. we were sitting and we were talking about if Jessica knew that we were both Norwegian, or if it was random, because it was we were both Norwegian, so we'd start talking in Norwegian and at the same time telling about where we were on the soul journey. We discovered that we were very much on the same place, being at the same, resonating with each other's journey. Yeah. So it was very nice and very exciting.
Was that random, Jessica?
It was completely random, yeah.
How about that? How about that? That is beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Two Norwegian speakers and they end up together. Fantastic. Oh, that's so beautiful.
And on the same place on the
And
journey.
the same place on the journey. Fantastic. I'm glad I asked.
Is it synchronicity, Tim?
Say again?
Is that synchronicity?
That definitely is. That's
Yeah.
it. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the narrativity at work, just right there.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Just one breakout room. Oh no, 2 breakout rooms, but they'll be back in 10 seconds.
Okay, so when we'll wait. Someone, anyone else like to say anything? For those that have missed it, it's just worth taking on that we only have 2 Norwegian speakers here, and they both ended up in the same breakout room. So that was very sweet. Yeah, Lennart, and then Rob.
So I really felt compelled to comment on things, and I didn't at first, because the plan was to just be present and to just be aware. And then in the end, we did end up with a little bit of a conversation, but I think it was very good to just to reconnect to the intention and to say, okay, we're just listening, even though we have so many things what we would like to talk about.
Fantastic. Very good. Yes. Rob.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you. That just for so spontaneously arranging, just organising that. I wasn't expecting that we even do that now. So, look, that was just amazing. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Fantastic. Great. Thanks for initiating it, Rob. Cool. Okay. One more person. Anyone else there? Gonna give us a quick wave. All right. Okay. All right. Look, let's. We got 10 minutes to end with. Here's what I want to do. I just want us to all connect together again. So we're going to end like we started. There's not going to be any speaking this time. I'm going to get Jessica just to bring up a face, and I want us to connect. And this time, because we're going to do it in complete silence, you can really, if you pay attention, you will, I'm sure, feel it. You can feel the soul connection, and you can then reach into this deep oneness through each other. So, and all you need to do is just take your loving attention and just give it wholeheartedly to the person whose image you're looking at. That's it. That's it. So let's just do that. So find the place in you, that individuality in you, conscious of the place where you're individual, and then through the individual, the universal. You're the everything, being you. And then we'll start with me. Here we go. Wow. And look at that, Jessica. You have us exactly on 9 o'clock, on the dot. In your imagination, dear lovers and friends, hold hands with me. So we're all connected. We are all connected. And that connection is love. Individuality is a fancy word for love. It's been an absolute delight to spend these 3 hours with you. There's some people here who are with me on the shift course who aren't members of the ICU. Yeah, I hope you will consider joining our community. And it's really easy to do. It's on the website, or ask Jessica. Because this is all new. This is only this year. We're just getting going. Working out how we can deepen our understanding and deepen our love and practice, build up in our passivity, connection with ourselves, with each other, so that we can take it out into the world. And as Chris has just said, if you haven't noticed, we are all stargates. I see the infinite through your eyes. That was great, Chris. That's right. That's right. We are stargates. In the ancient world, they believed everyone was a star. And the reason they believed that was because they saw stars as holes in the veil in the night sky. And through each hole in the veil, you could see the light beyond. And so we are all like that. We are all holes in the veil in which you can connect with something beyond the world. Something which is more. We are holes in the veil. We are stargates. We are. Jessica runs an extra meetup, which is in a couple of weeks, called the Heart Zoom. There's information on our website. Do you want to say a couple of words, Jessica?
Yeah, it's normally on Wednesday nights, but actually this month I needed to change it. I've double booked myself, so it's going to be on Friday the 15th. And it only started in September, so this will be the third one. But last month it turned out into just being a beautiful conversation between probably about 10 of us, just talking and bringing up things that had arisen in our lives and various topics that Tim had brought up in his previous online meetup and things that had come up on the ICU Facebook page. And it was just a good chance to just talk and connect in a slightly more informal way. So you'd all be very, very welcome to join. And if you want to ask me anything about that, or for the people that have come from the Shift Network, email me. It's jessica@timfreke.com. So yeah, and hopefully I'll be better than I am.
Thank you, Jessica.
That's all right.
All right, my lovers. We'll be meeting again for the ICU. It won't be as long next time, but we'll learn from this and we'll do this again, I'm sure. I see you. I love you. Go well. And we are inside each other now. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Thank Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Tim, very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Travel safely.
Bye.
Great.